Stitchers, I'm Amy, I'm the Globetrotting Stitcher. I am here today with Gary, who is also a Globetrotting Stitcher, who's being a goof nut. And we hope that you're all doing well. I'm still trying to figure out right now how it's the end of January, because what happened to January? I know January for a lot of people seems like it is a month that takes 5 years to get through, but this one sure didn't for us, or for me at any rate. But we hope that you're all well, that you have been having a good month and enjoying your stitching. I wanted to say a special welcome. We found a number of new subscribers through our whip parade. And so I'm so glad that those of you who found us through our whip parade enjoyed what we were stitching on and enjoyed our channel and decided to stick around. So welcome. And then those of you who are returning friends, it's great to see you again. We hope that you are doing well. It was also really fun to hear from a lot of you who enjoyed our unicorn fix to the technical issues that we had last time. Lots of funny comments, and so we're glad that so many of you enjoyed that. And in fact, one of you actually had suggested that maybe we could make it an annual tradition to include the unicorn in future whip parades. So we'll keep that in mind, and we'll see next year. For now, right before we get into the stitching, just a couple of quick updates. One is I've just returned from a business trip to Kenya and Rwanda. I'll tell you a little bit about that later, but that might be a good part of the reason why January seemed like it went by so quickly, is because I was away for a part of it. And we are also getting ready this next week this actually in the next couple of days, to celebrate my dad's 80th birthday, which I can't quite believe we're doing. But yeah, so we've got we've got some family coming into town, and Gary's working on a special video. And so it's going to be really fun to mark this major milestone birthday for my dad. And we are going to be giving him a stitchy gift in honor of his birthday. So we will be sure to share that with you once it's fully finished. Those of you who've been around for a while will recognize probably the project itself, but we're waiting for the frame to arrive so I can get it mounted and framed to give to him as his gift. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get into stitchy pieces. I have 3 fully finished objects to show you and 1 finish. So it's been a productive couple of weeks since we filmed our last update. So the first fully finished object I'm going to show you is an older finish from last year. This is Easter Peep Parade by With Thy Needle and Thread. I stitched this on a piece of 32 count in the pink linen by R&R Reproductions using the called for floss. And I purchased the frame for this. It's a custom frame from pictureframes.com. This is a project also looking back at my stitching journal that took me, it looks like 8 days of stitching to complete. And here it is. So I really love how this turned out. I think it's really pretty and really sweet. And I think one of the things I like most about the frame that I found for it is it's got this little border of like flowers or little daisies that are shaped almost exactly the same as the spray of flowers that runs across the top of the design. And so it's kind of a nice mirroring between the frame and the project. But this was such a fun piece to stitch. Obviously, as I said, only requiring 8 stitching days, so it stitched up really quickly. I love the sweet colors and this adorable bunny, and I loved everything about this. It was, as so many of Brenda Gervais' pieces are, or her designs are, it was just a really fun stitch. And so it's going to be great to put this one up later this spring as we get close to Easter. But for right now, it's going to go in the closet with all the other finished projects that are waiting to come out for the season. So anyway, that is my fully finished object, or fully finished version of Easter Peep Parade. So the next fully finished object I have to show you is a really old one. This is a project that has been sitting in the under the bed box, so to speak, since 2022, which is when I did the stitching on it. So this is part of the Christmas Cheer Pin Pillows chart pack by Jeanette Douglas Designs. I stitched the Noel chart, and I stitched this on a piece of 36 count Stars Hollow Blend linen by R&R Reproductions using all the called for floss. So this is my Noel pillow. I decided to go with a really simple finish on this because the design itself is a perfect square, and so a lot of times if it's a perfect square, I like to just keep it that way and not add extra fabric, like complementary fabrics on the front of it. So really simple finish with a pretty pom-pom trim by Lady Dot Creates. And then on the back, I just used this really pretty kind of pale sagey green Christmas floral, and the little berries on this match perfectly with the red in the pom-pom trim. So pleased with how this one turned out. This was really fun and really quick to finish up. And I only regret that I didn't get it fully finished sooner, but it'll be fun to have ready to put out with the Christmas stuff next year. And then I finished another of the projects in the Christmas Cheer Pin Pillows chart. I also did 'Tis the Season. Again, Jeanette Douglas Designs, also on 36 count Stars Hollow Blend Linen with all the called for floss. And this is one I did stitch last year, so it wasn't waiting around quite as long. But here is my 'Tis the Season finish. And again, I went fairly simple with this using another Lady Dot Creates pom-pom trim, but this time I did it in a darker, or in a green color. And then I decided to use this really sweet like holly berry trim on the, or fabric on the back. And then used, put a pin with a 2024 because I had some of those left over, the little 2024 charm, and then also this sweet holly berry charm as well. So another sweet finish, another one that was really fun. And so I'm really delighted because of the 6 designs that were in this chart pack. I have stitched all of them and I only have one left to fully finish. So hopefully you will see that soon. Let's see, just put these right here. Okay, and then on to my finish. I knew this was coming. If you've been around for a while, you probably saw this coming, but I wasn't sure whether I would make it across the finish line in January. But I have finished the project in the sampler part of my rotation. So De Farben Venedig by Historische Stickmuster is done at long last. The easier way to pronounce that in English for me is The Colors of Venice. So I stitched this project on 36 count cream and sugar linen by Fiber on a Whim, and I used all the called for Swadelge silks. So the last time you saw this was in our whip parade, and I was getting close to the finish. So I was working in the bottom row of the design. I had finished stitching the dark blue rectangle that is on the far right of the design and had started working in the middle rectangle that is more of a taupey color. So here is my finish. I apologize, I've not had time to iron or wash or iron this yet, although that is on the docket for probably this week. But having just returned, it was, I just didn't get to the ironing and the washing part yet. This project took me 75 days of stitching, so it's, not super large, but these rectangles are full coverage, and so it's pretty dense stitching. But as you can see, I finished obviously filling in this taupey rectangle and then did all of the light blue rectangle on the far left side here. So I absolutely love this. I think it is so beautiful. I do have plans to stitch. There's a complementary design that is the same size with a very similar color palette and feel, and that is in my longer term stitching plans. Probably not, certainly not this year, but I'm thinking I might start that one next year because I think it'd be lovely to have these framed up and hanging together probably in our bedroom. So I'm delighted with how this turned out. I think it's really beautiful, and so I'll be starting to look for a frame for it relatively soon. But this was a great one to get finished. It felt really good to get it wrapped up. So one thing that I did want to mention, the last time you saw this, I was telling you that I had discovered that I made a fairly significant boo-boo, and I had stitched this dark blue rectangle one stitch too high, and so I was talking about possible fixes for that. And one of you had suggested that instead of stitching extra rows on these other two rectangles, that it might make more sense to like frog out the top level of this one to make it even all the way across the top. I thought that was a really good suggestion. I didn't end up doing that yet. What I did do was stitch an extra row on the bottom. I just kind of followed the progression of the blue where it looked like it was likely to go. And so I stitched an uncharted row along the bottom here so that it's even all the way across the bottom. And so now I just have to decide whether or not I'm going to frog out the top row of that rectangle so that it's all even. But looking at it, unless you look at it really close up and you know to look for it, it's not super noticeable that this one is just one row higher. And so I may just leave it. I'm still debating. I have time to think about it, but we'll see. At any rate, we're calling this a finish for now, and I am just delighted with how it turned out. I think it's an absolutely beautiful piece. I think it's really elegant, and so I can't wait to get this one framed and on the wall.
I'm just going to say perfection achieved is boring.
Yes.
So you do what you got to do.
Thank you. I appreciate your perspective. I think it's a good one. Okay, so on to the whips. What have we been working on for the last several weeks? So the first thing I will show you is my fancy lady. Oop, hold on. So I am slowly but surely working my way down through Rose of Sharon by Mirabilia, and it was really great because I got a comment from Kyle Reckemeyer on our last video where I showed this because he had stitched this several years ago. First of all, it made my day to hear from Kyle because Kyle's one of my favorite people and I miss his videos, but I remember when he was stitching this, and so it was fun to hear from him on it's still one of his favorite pieces that he's ever done. Okay, so before I show this, Mirabilia Rose of Sharon. So the last time you saw this, let's see, I'm checking my notes here. Oh, I'm stitching this on a piece, sorry you guys, stitching this on a piece of 32 count Meadowview Lugana by Fabric Flare. That is a printed fabric, and it doesn't always show up as clearly on camera just because some colors are weird on camera, but this is a fabric that starts out with like a light blue sky with some kind of cloud effect at the top, and then it has a gradual fade down into more of a soft grassy green on the bottom. But I'm using all the called for DMC on this. So the last time you saw this, I had stitched the very top of the ornamental section on the left side of the arch, the left pillar in the arch. I was still working my way through, there's like a big chunk of like draping of greenery and roses that goes across that area. So I was working in that area. I had finished all the hollyhocks on the right side of the design, and I had started working on the hollyhocks on the left, and of course was continuing to carry down the skirt. I've been kind of trying to get the front part of the skirt fully stitched, and then the train of the skirt, and then work my way into the middle. So here's where she is right now. So some pretty good progress. I was really happy because this whole green swag now is done. I've finished that. I carried down quite a bit more of this ornamental section. Didn't get it quite done, but it won't take me long to finish it the next time this comes up in rotation. And I did get a really good start. Sorry, you guys. Did get a nice start here on the greenery and roses in this next section down. The other good progress was I am basically finished with the hollyhocks. There's a little bit of green, kind of just concentrated green bottom of the plants that I didn't quite get finished, but most of that hollyhock section on the left is now stitched in, which is great. And then carried the skirt down more in the front section here and started moving toward the middle. So started carrying down more of that skirt in the middle, and then got more of the train section kind of stitched in along the bottom. So it's helpful to kind of see where, this sort of middle chunk of skirt, what's left to stitch. It's still a lot of stitching, but it doesn't look quite so big and chunky to get that finished up. So this one, I felt like I made better progress on this. I've talked several times about how this is a project that, as much as I love it, it just feels like one that I have a hard time getting significant progress on it each time it comes up in rotation. And I felt like I kind of got through that a lot better and made more progress this time. So looking forward to this coming back out. Okay. Next up is my full coverage. I am stitching Rose Trellis in by Heaven and Earth Designs, and I am working this on a piece of 28 count white Lugana, 2/1 using a combination of half stitch and continental stitch. So the last time you saw this, I had started working in the far right section of the front porch and was filling that in more, and then I was also really concentrated on the rose trellis in sign, and you were starting to be able to see some of the words more distinctly on the sign, which was great. So let me just get this clipped in place and I can show you where I am right now. There we go. All right, so as you can see, good progress again on this. I am almost finished filling in this far right section of the porch. Basically, all I have left to do on that is finish this last chair, and then that section will be done. I made a lot of progress stitching down through, well, first of all, the banisters and kind of this background section, which is a lot of confetti, and it's a lot of like whites and grays and pale blues. So it's harder stitching because it's just not as easy to see on a white fabric. And as you can see, really made good progress on my sign here. So you can clearly see the word rose. You're starting to see the word trellis. And then you can see this rose at the bottom of the sign coming in. Also stitched in some grass and got this signpost on the far left done. And then got more of the flowers. And there's a fair bit of fill-in that got done here further down that's kind of hidden behind my parked threads. But this one, it was another one that I felt like I made really great progress on. And this one will be coming out again soon, and I'm super excited to work on it because I can see I'm getting increasingly close to the end of the heavy confetti, and that for me is super exciting because once I get through the last of the really bad confetti, it should be quick and easy stitching through the end. Famous last words. So that's where I am on Rose Trellis In.
Anyway, so here I am, once again, not ready, and I should have been ready. I'm looking at a timer. Today, I'm going to talk with you about cross-stitch patterns. Exactly which cross-stitch patterns? I don't know. Depends on what comes up on ye old phone. Anyway, let's start with Louis Armstrong. That is a stitching jewels design, and it's stitched on 16 count white Aida. And that's where he is. I had the counts for last year, but I don't have the counts for now. This is where it was the last time. I'm not sure if I had done a few stitches into page 6, because the way the project is lined out is it's page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm doing my process is 1, 6, 2, 7, so I can just be done with it at the last stitch, basically. So anyway, I think I had just maybe done a few stitches on page 6, but anyway, this is where it is. This is where it is now, and you can see that it definitely looks like more than a crescent wrench. Definitely trumpet feeling right about now, and I have a little bit more to do on that, and I will then start page 2. Anyway, so that's where I am on Louis Armstrong. It's been somewhat challenging. I've learned how to fix several things because Amy goes away, so I have to learn how to do stuff on my own, which ain't right. but anyway, so that's where I am on Louis Armstrong. Yeah, that's where I am on Louis Armstrong. The next cross-stitch piece that I'm working on is called Wonder Woman, and it's by Cross Stitch Bay. which I believe is an Etsy shop, and it's stitched on 16 count Puta Ada, with most of the called for colors. The only colors we changed is wherever blue shows up, we changed it from a teal blue to a darker blue. I don't remember the number, but I can pop it up here so you can see what number it was we changed it to. So the last time you saw this, I had finished her legs and filling in all the colors for her boots and all of that sort of stuff. And I think the next thing I had to do was the letters for Wonder Woman. So this is where Wonder Woman is now. And you can see I've completed the letters, at least the outline of the letters. And then just below the letters, there's like a Wonder Woman symbol. I'm not sure if I'm going to fill in the colors for the words before I start the symbol below, or just do the symbol below and then fill in the colors, because the symbol below, if I do all the black outline again, I can just go and fill in all the colors. So I may do that, or I may just do it all in one thing. I don't know yet. But I think if I work on this, maybe in the next 2 or 3, maybe 4 videos, Wonder Woman will be finished. So the question becomes, well, what am I gonna do next? I got a Deadpool one, which I haven't shown because I'm not sure if I'm gonna do it or not. But anyway, we'll see. I have to look at the stash. I think I have six in the stash. Is that what it's called, stash?
Yeah, your stash.
Stash.
6 charts in your
Yeah.
stash.
Yeah, it's like a 70s stash.
No, it's not.
And then, okay, so that brings us to the last thing I generally talk about that has any real value in the world. Just kidding. That's the action figures. And the reason why those 2 are there is because they're kind of in-demand action figures. One is Superman, but that Superman's based off Christopher Reeve's portrayal of Superman in 1978. So it's basically it's Christopher Reeve Superman. And then the guy next to it, he's called Mr. Terrific, not as well known as Superman, but still a very, very sought after figure. So I ordered them, and then there's something went wrong with the site. Anyway, I have 2 more of them coming. So that's what I wanted to share. I thought I'd canceled an order, but I didn't. And I reordered them from someplace else that got them to me sooner, but I didn't cancel the first order, so now I'll have 2 of each. So I can take a couple out and leave a couple in the box. But anyway, for anyone who collects action figures, that's either a boom or a bust because they're not cheap, but it's kind of a boom because, again, you can take one out of the box and basically play with it and put the other one, you know, into storage. I am not opening them yet, though, because if I do and something happens and I don't get the other 2, well, then I don't have 2 in a box anymore. So I'm going to wait till I have 4 in a box to open 2 in a box. That's enough.
He keeps telling me that this order situation was an accident, but I mean, really, is it?
Yep. First time ever happened.
First time ever happened. Actually, it is. All right. I've got a couple more projects to show you. So the first one is my seasonal stitch. I am working on Gather Here by Hello from Liz Matthews. And I am stitching this on a piece of 32 count pecan Wexford linen by Silk Weaver. And I am using NPI number 568, which is in the Iris Blue range. So the last time you saw this project, it was a new start. And I had stitched in most of the bird that is kind of the central element to the design. And I had started stitching in some of the branches and leaves and berries. And here is where it is right now. So this one I did take with me on my trip to Kenya and Rwanda. And it kind of got the short end of the stick, as it were, because I had a lot of long days and team dinners and dinners with partners at night. And so when that happens, there's just really not any stitching time to be carved out. And so I didn't even get 1,000 stitches on this rotation, which is less than half of what I would typically get. Usually I get between 2,000 and 2,500 during an average rotation, and this just did not come close, but that's okay. That's the way it goes. Sometimes I did get a couple more leaves in. I finished the tail feathers on the bird and started on kind of some leaves down here. And then as you can see, I've carried this branch out and did another berry and started working on some leaves down here. So with any luck, the next time this comes up, it will get a lot more love and we'll see more noticeable progress. But it is really fun to stitch, and it was a nice palette cleanser for me. It was kind of easy stitching after a mentally taxing week. So that was nice. So that is my progress on Gather here. And let's see, okay. Then I also worked on my travel stitch. So my travel stitch is Seasons Winter by Lila's Studio. Excuse me. I'm stitching it on a piece of 32 count avocado linen by XJU Designs, and I'm using mostly called for flosses, but have done some conversion of color because I am turning the birds into cardinals. So the last time you saw this, it was a brand new start. And I had made decent progress, so I had stitched in the first of the cardinals, but I had mentioned that I was going to need to do some work on that to make it look more like a cardinal from the shape perspective. I had gotten in the first quilt star, started working on kind of the greenery that's sitting perched in the sleigh in the middle, and was kind of working my way down through the pine branches. I made really good progress on this while I was traveling. And so here's where it is right now. So I'm sorry because part of the left half of the design is underneath the hoop, so you're not going to see that progress. But I've completely finished stitching down the left side of the piece, started stitching these white kind of lacy sections in the border along the bottom, and have stitched all but the one letter of the word winter. I also finished stitching in the sleigh here and got the second cardinal in. And one of the things I was really pleased with was I did a little bit of tinkering around and was able to kind of modify the first bird that I stitched and then match that on the other side to make it look more like a cardinal. So now it does have the cardinal's crest. I frogged out a little bit of the red stitching here where the cardinal is, his eye is, because cardinals have more of a black section around their eyes. And then I also frogged out the wing and put in a different color because the floss that I had originally used was dark enough at the top, but it faded out at the bottom and it wasn't really showing up. So I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. It's one thing that's a little bit odd, and this may just be the weave of the linen, but the cardinal on the right looks distinctly skinnier to me than the cardinal on the left. And I've counted the stitches. It is, it's the same number of stitches. It's perfect match, but for whatever reason, it just looks like a skinnier cardinal. So I'm not sure what's happening with that. Like I said, I think it's got to be the weave of the linen.
Ozempic?
Yes.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Yes. That's precisely it. I don't even know what to say now. Anyway, that's my progress on my travel stitch. And so I'm looking forward to working on this more. I had a lot of fun working on this Ozempic cardinal. So that's it for whips that you all have seen before. I have had one more new start since the last time we shared an update with you, and that is because when we moved into January, I started a new project in my monthly morning stitch category. And this is one that it doesn't look like a ton of progress because it's pretty dense stitching, but I actually have gotten about 1,000 stitches on this. So this is going to be the first chart in a series of 4, possibly 5 that I plan to do on this piece of fabric. I'm going to kind of create a look or a design, a consolidated design using multiple charts. So the first project I am stitching on this fabric, which I should tell you what that fabric is. I am using a 36 count opalescent Winter Scene Lugana by Fabric Flair. Again, this is a printed fabric, and unfortunately you may not be able to see much of what it looks like because a lot of it is hidden by the Q-snap and folded up just for ease of stitching. So maybe we can get a picture of what the fabric itself looks like, because it's a beautiful winter woodland scene with trees and snow and snowflakes coming down. It's very pretty. And so I am stitching a number of the charts it's Kits by SA Stitch, which is an Etsy shop. And this particular shop, she or he has charted a number of these sweet little woodland animals, and they're all like dressed up for winter in, scarves and hats and sweaters. And so the first one of hers that I am stitching on this piece of fabric is called Lumberjack Beaver. So this is the top of my beaver. As you can see, he's got a green little puffball, and he's wearing like an orangish red, rusty colored hat. You can see I've got the first part of the beaver face here, and I'm stitching in his scarf and his sweater. And so he and his friends are going to be standing out here in the woods. I kind of envisioned them as like caroling animals, although none of them are holding carol books. So maybe they're just like having a little bit of a hangout, but had a really fun time. Again, like I said, this is pretty dense stitching, and these are very back stitch heavy. So it may take a little longer than I thought, but that's okay. This is a decent start, and I'm going to be putting some more stitches into him, but this is the beginning of Lumberjack Beaver. Okay, so that's it for stitchy pieces. Wanted to share with you just a little bit of stitchy kindness. So several weeks back, I got a message from one of our regular viewers. Her name is Denise. Denise, I hope you don't mind me sharing just your first name on here. And Denise had reached out to me, and she said that she was looking to destash. She was trying to kind of trim her stash down, and she had a bunch of lavender and lace charts that she was no longer planning to stitch. And so she asked if I'd be interested in them. And I said, yes, I would love to. And I did, I told her, I said, I have a pretty extensive lavender and lace collection. Over the years, I had purchased most of the lavender and lace charts that I wanted, but that I would be happy to, to receive whatever she was destashing, and then anything that I didn't want to add to my own collection would share on the channel. And so while I was on my trip, she sent a box of charts over, and I was blown away, you guys, because I was not expecting the massive stack of charts that Denise sent over. So we've started looking through them and have picked out a few things that we're planning to keep, and may pull a few more things out of the stack. So I wanted to show you what I'm going to keep, and I think Gary's got a couple that he wants to keep. We may do battle because there's one chart in particular that we both want, and so we'll talk about that in a minute. But let me show you what I'm going to keep for sure. Here we go. So just quickly, this is one I did not have, Angel of Winter. I have most of the other angels, the seasonal angels that were charted, so really nice to add this one to the collection. This is a beautiful chart called Lady Claire, of this beautiful lady kneeling down in the woods or the garden next to a swan. So I've got Lady Claire in my collection now. And this wonderful, wonderful design called Emma's Garden. I really love this. I've loved this for a long time. It reminds me of my grandma. Her name was Emma, and she loved to garden. So I'm going to keep this one. And then we also have Song of Christmas, which is one of the beautiful Santas. So those are the four that I am for sure going to keep. And Gary, I don't know if you want to show what you're going to pluck out of the mix.
So yeah, I got a couple of things out of the stitchy goodness too. I'm not sure, well, I'll just show you what they are and we'll go from there. The first one is like, it's called Fairy Dreams, right there. I'll put it closer. See? No, I'm sorry. Fairy Dreams, and it's got pinks and stuff on in it, and I thought that she would like that, but turns out she actually really likes this one. Well, I should do it this way so you can't tell. She actually really likes this one, which is called Ice Angel. She actually had it in her pile of stuff to do, and I kind of sneaked it into my pile of stuff to do because I want to do it for her, but she wants to do it herself. So maybe we should just get another one, and then we can both do it. Like I can start down here, and she can start up there, and we can meet somewhere. That was boring. Anyway, so yeah, so those are the ones I got, and they're really cool. Apparently, there's some beadwork in here. Don't know what that means. There's also some metallic thread in here too. Again, what does that mean? But at any rate, yeah, they're really cool. Lavender and Laces does these.
So we might have an off-camera brawl at some point in the future. So if one of us shows up with, a split lip or a black eye, you'll know that somebody won the chart battle. We'll see. Okay.
There'll be no split lips.
That's right. We don't do that kind of thing around here. We joke about it, but we don't do it.
Might short sheet you.
But put some honey on your pillow.
That's not honey.
Moving along. Oh, my word. So I wanted to quickly tell you guys a little bit about the trip that I was just on. There's not a whole lot to share, but I did take a few pictures that I thought you might be interested in. My time in Kenya was fairly brief, and it was all meetings. I didn't do anything interesting or fun. So just to say, I was in Kenya for a few days. I had productive meetings, and then I went to Rwanda. And my time in Rwanda was a combination of engagement with partners and a strategy retreat for my team, which was pretty intense, but really good. And so one of the things we did, because it was a team retreat, was we did a little bit of a team building session. And one of the things that Rwanda is known for, one of its most important crops that they grow is banana. And many years ago, when I took my first trip to Rwanda, one of the things that I got to taste that I didn't realize up until that time was a very popular product that Rwanda produces is banana beer. They also make banana wine, which is really interesting. So anyway, we had an opportunity to make banana wine ourselves, the traditional way. And we're taught by someone local how to do that. And it was really fun. So the whole process, you have a whole bunch of bananas, and these are sweet bananas, which in Rwanda and actually in East Africa generally, they're called dessert bananas, because they also have bananas that are savory. Anyway, you use a dessert banana, you peel the bananas, and there's a big wooden trough that's been carved out. And you put the bananas in the trough with a bunch of elephant grass. And then there's this intense mashing process that happens. And in Rwanda, this is traditionally done by the men. And so we did have one lady from our team who wanted to get into the mix and give it a try. Maybe more than one lady, but a lot of the guys on the team kind of got in. So you'll see some pictures of the guys mashing the bananas up in the trough. And they add water to that. And then once they get that, while that's happening, one of the jobs that the ladies traditionally do is they roast sorghum. And the sorghum, it's interesting, you roast it over an open flame in a big pot or a big, what's the word? It's not really a skillet. It's, anyway, it's a big roasting tray. And you put the sorghum in, and it slowly roasts, and it pops a bit like popcorn into these little white kernels. And so we got to take turns roasting the sorghum over the open flame. And then once the sorghum is roasted, you take it and you either pound it really hard in a pounding it looks like a butter churn. It's like a big empty thing, and you've got a big heavy stick, and you pound it. Or you can get down on your hands and knees, and there's a grinding stone. And so you grind the sorghum into a really fine powder. And in the meantime, once the banana has been mashed up and it's all nice and juicy, they take it and they strain that banana. They strain the banana juice through a, like, I forget what the filter was, but they strain it out so that you get all the elephant grass out of it, and it's just the banana mashed up in the water, and it's nice and juicy. And then what they do is they put sorghum on top of that, and they let it sit in these special containers for about a week, so that it can turn into alcohol. So it was really fun. They had, of course, some pre-made banana wine that we got to taste at the end of having made our own banana wine, since of course we didn't have time to wait for it to go through the full process. But it was a really fun experience. I've never gotten a chance to do that, and the banana wine was actually very, very tasty. So really enjoyed that. And then the other piece that was really nice for me was one of the partners that I work with in Rwanda is they're working with the government of Rwanda to help them increase their exports of avocado and chili. They have these special chilies that everybody was really enjoying, and they're very, very spicy, but they have them processed and turned into, it's almost like a Tabasco sauce, but it's a different kind of sauce, and it's really flavorful. I don't personally like spicy things, so I didn't try it, but pretty much everybody I was traveling with on my team loved it, and they were all looking for a local shop so they could get their hands on some. At any rate, so one of the things that was really great to do was to visit the propagation facility where they are taking cuttings from avocado trees and propagating them into new plantlets. And then so it was really interesting, and that process they grow very slowly, so that process takes about a year to get a plantlet that's mature enough to then go on to a farm where it gets multiplied into even more plantlets. And so then those are taken and sold to farmers. And so this is going to be a really long process before they actually see progress, because between making taking the original plantlets and propagating those and then multiplying those on the farm that does that, it takes 3 years once a farmer plants one of those plantlets before they will actually get avocado fruit. So it's a long-term vision that they're working on, but it was really interesting just to get a look, because avocado is not a crop that I'm super familiar with. And so it was really interesting just to see that process and to see what they're working on and to hear more about it. So that was really fun. Okay, so moving on from my trip, we did have some questions that came in on the last video, so I wanted to respond to those quickly, and then we'll tell you what we're going to be, or what our plans are for the next couple weeks, and let you move on to your next Flosstube video. So first of all, a question came from Penny, and she said, you mentioned that you scanned the Mirabilia pattern and used markup RXP. Can you give us any tips for scanning Mirabilia charts? So Penny, I don't know how helpful this will be. I will say it is an imperfect process. It is a trial and error process. But what I have found to be useful is to either take it to like a local shop that can scan it for you, or if you've got a really big copier at work, but to actually scan it. And the key is to get a really yes, thank you, a really high resolution scan, and to make sure it is really, really straight. As long as you do that, markup RXP I have found to be of all of the tools that are available to stitchers to work with digital charts, I find markup RXP to be the best for actually uploading scanned charts, because their tool is actually designed to, if there's just slight imperfections, a lot of times markup RXP can work with those. So I don't have any other tips than that, but I would say definitely a high-res chart, and you've got to get it as straight as possible. So if you can get a big copy machine or a big scanner that can get the whole chart at once, that's your best bet. Next question came from Deborah, and Deborah said, you mentioned loving British mysteries involving Scotland Yard. I do as well. Now that I finished the video, I don't recall if you showed the series or the book series. Would you mind sharing? So I thought I would tell you about this because I'm a big fan of these books. So there's two that I'm going to tell you about. The first one is my absolute favorite. This is a series that is written by Charles Todd, and there's over 20 books in the first series. And this is the Ian Rutledge series. And it follows, the series follows a Scotland Yard inspector who has just come back from World War I. He's dealing with a terrible case of, oh my goodness, why did my brain just go blank? Of, we call it PTSD. They called it,
Shell-shocked.
thank you, shell shock. And so it's his journey as he's kind of trying to return to normal life after the war. And of course, in each book, he's solving a new murder mystery, and doing so without the benefit of a lot of the modern technologies that we have available for detectives today. So that's really good. Charles Todd also has another wonderful series. It's newer, so there's not as many books, but also really good. And those follow a nurse called Bess Crawford. So it's the Bess Crawford series, and she is a nurse working on the front lines in World War I, and she just happens to stumble across a lot of dead people along the way, and it kind of, is solving mysteries there. And at Bess and Ian actually have, as you get later into their various books, they have some friends and relations in common, and so they don't ever directly cross paths, but you can see kind of references to one another in their various books. So highly recommend. Big favorite of mine. I've also recently discovered the Inspector Morse series, which is set in a much later time period. It's a bit grittier, so if gritty bothers you, Ian Rutledge and Bess Crawford would definitely be a great place to start. But Inspector Morse is also really interesting. So those are my recommendations for some books that I love. I hope if you haven't discovered them that you enjoy them. And I know a lot of other Flosstubers talk about books on their channel. I usually don't. But one of you expressed an interest in hearing more about the books that I'm reading. So if that's something that more of you are interested in, maybe we can explore adding that. So just putting it out there, if it's something that you all are interested in, let me know. And then the last question is from Afton Grove Knitter, and they asked, how do you decide what category to put each piece in? So talking about my rotation. So in some cases, and I think this is because you can see in some cases where different pieces could fit into multiple categories. So for instance, I have several full coverage pieces that I'm working on in my monthly morning stitch. And basically it's, obviously my rotations, I've got full coverage. That's pretty easy. That's a full coverage piece. I've been working on the same primary full coverage piece for a number of years, and that will stay my full coverage rotation until it's finished. Sampler is a little bit loose of an interpretation. Basically anything that is a true sampler, and that can be sort of one of your traditional historical samplers. It can be a Quaker sampler or a band sampler. So anything that we would consider to be a sampler, but then I also kind of sometimes will grandfather in pieces that have a little bit more of a primitive flavor to them. They're not true samplers, but I might, sometimes stitch those in my sampler category of the rotation, just because it's got that primitive feel to it. So that's kind of how I determine sampler. Fancy ladies, I think that's fairly straightforward and obvious. Seasonal, I will choose something that has a distinct seasonal feel to it, whether that's Christmas or winter, Valentine's, Easter, and then kind of more summery stitches as well as autumnal stitches. So something that is just a clearly seasonal design. I tend for the seasonal category to choose pieces that are only small or medium because I like to move things through that rotation a little bit more quickly, because in the other parts of my rotation, pieces tend to be just larger projects. And then I also have my wild card stitch, and wild card is really all encompassing of anything. It can be something that would fit into another category, like a large design that is seasonal but much bigger than I would want to stitch in a seasonal category because I like to keep those moving. Or it can be something that just doesn't cleanly fit into one of the other categories, but it's something I want to stitch. So that would be my wild card. And monthly morning is kind of similar. It's projects that they can be large or small, but it's just projects that have been sitting in my stash for some time and that I just really want to stitch. And I'm not going to get to them anytime soon. And so I figure short, small progress is better than not working on them at all. So hopefully that's kind of a helpful way, but of how I determine what to put in what category of the rotation. Okay, so that is it for questions. So we'll talk about plans quickly and then move you along. So over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to continue working on my weekend stitch, Butterfly Port Mauve. We didn't show that in this video because I haven't made a ton of progress since our whip parade, but I am going to work on it between now and next video, so you will see that next time. I am also going to spend a week working on Rose Trellis In, my full coverage piece. We'll see how far we can get with that, as well as a week working on my wild card, which is Cabin Fever. So I'm looking forward to getting some time on that. Gary's going to be working on Wonder Woman and Louis Armstrong, so we'll see how far he gets on those. And that is what we've got kind of in the plans. So I think that kind of does it for us today. We hope you enjoyed our video. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up. It does help with the YouTube algorithm with finding new viewers and making sure people know when we have a new video out. If you're not a subscriber, we hope that you will hit that subscribe button and click the little bell so you get notifications when we post new videos. We do enjoy your comments. We read all of them, even if I don't get a chance to respond to them super quickly. So please do leave comments. We really enjoy interacting with you in the chat. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm at globetrotting_stitcher, and you can send us emails to globetrottingstitcher@gmail.com. So be well, happy stitching, and we look forward to seeing you really soon. Take care. Bye-bye.